We are live. Welcome,
I'll just sit here,
everybody.
wait for you to tell me to talk.
Round two.
I'll wait until you say it's okay. I mean, for sure.
You take the floor.
What is up? What is up, guys? Thanks for coming and hanging out with us today here on our gratitude, attitude, and commitment call. Curls has started sharing her screen with something that says, everything that is said today is absolutely my opinion or your opinion, and the SFM is not responsible for any of those opinions. And if anyone has a problem with that, they should call Curls. She will get you sorted. All right. Has anybody ever reached out to you, by the way? Has anybody ever called you to complain? I'm just curious.
No, they're too scared to do that. Every time
I
you
wouldn't
say this, I'm like, don't.
Right on. Right on. I love it. All right. Well, so today, I had some stuff that I was going to cover today, but I'm mixing it up because we're going to change it here because of a conversation I was having yesterday. So, last 2 weeks ago, fortnightly, as my mates say, we had Irene on, right, for an interview, and loved it, and I'm a big fan of learning from other people. That's why we all talk on here. And I wanted to get the feedback from you guys and gals. When I say guys, that's the proverbial everybody, about the interview thing, right? Like there are some other people that that we could bring on who would be willing to come hang out with us because, I mean, let's be serious. Who doesn't want to be a cool kid that we can learn from, but I kind of wanted to get the feedback, from you guys. I mean, we could kind of do our format where, every couple times we have a different person on that we just kind of ask questions to. Some of the questions that I asked Irene last week came from you guys, right? There were things that other people wanted to know, and I think we can get some interesting people on here to to interview. So I wanted to get people's thoughts. They come hang out here. Is this something to where you want to kind of keep it how we generally do it? Would you like to bring more people on and interview them? Let's start that way, because if we all unmute and talk at the same time, it's going to be a technological hot mess, right? So what do you guys think? Would you guys like me to bring some more people on to interview? Yes, no, maybe. I mean, is that a thing? Yes.
For those of
Okay.
you that are not on the panel, type in the chat, yes or no.
Okay. Because I have a couple people that I think would be super interesting to interview, but I don't want to just bring them, and not because I want to necessarily interview anybody, but just because I think that they have a lot to share. Like I learned a lot about Irene last week that I didn't know, that I believe can help me with my attitude and the way that I approach things. Tony typed in yes, and he is even on the panel, so he's like double in. And he raised his hand. Well done, sir. Well done. A+, my man. All right. So we'll look into that. So I'm gonna reach out to a couple people. I might even reach out to them, like on the tribe or in video where a bunch of people are involved and put pressure on them to make them feel bad for saying no. Just kidding. I wouldn't do that. I might do that actually. But either way, I will be in charge of that. And if you guys have anybody specifically in our community, doesn't even have to be in our community really. Though I prefer they have that kind of attitude, who you think that we could get some insight from or would help us learn, hit me up. Let me know. You guys can all reach me, like message or Danny, I live in Grateful, or, send me like a smoke signal or something. I'll receive it. We're on the same page. Okay. So for today, this is what I wanted to talk about today. And I wanted to have this a collaborative one, right? Because of the calls that we have where other people share, which is most of our calls, really, I always get the most out of. And I also get the most feedback after the call, from you guys about, hey, that was great how everybody shared and everybody gave their perspective, because, I'm only one dude and I only have a limited perspective, obviously, and it's pretty narrow. So I was having a conversation yesterday with one of my friends who helps me with content, right? With coming up with whatever with my ads. And we were talking about freedom, we're trying to come up with just a concept, and this just turned into a whole conversation. So this isn't for an ad. This is just something that I think is super interesting. Hilton, welcome. Sandra, welcome. Good to see you guys. We're about to talk about, we just had a vote and you guys weren't here, so I'm sorry your vote's not going to count. It might be like America, there'll be a lot of controversy over the election, but it is what it is. We're just going to move forward with what we have, right? Apparently that's the thing. Apparently there's a lot of people pissed off about stuff like that. I don't really know. So freedom, right? So we were talking about this yesterday, and you know, in the conversation, I was of the opinion that people's freedom, their idea of freedom, like what they consider to be freedom, is kind of limited to their experience, right? You know, for example, let's say that someone has this is how the conversation started, was business stuff, right? So let's say if someone has a commute to work, right? It takes them 2 hours in their car. They have this long commute to get to work. You know, for that person, freedom might just be, well, I get to work from home and not have that commute, right? Because they can't really fathom much more than that in that area of their life, right? Like financial freedom might not be might not be a thought that they have. You know, I know that since I have become a part of this community, my idea of freedom in that area of my life has expanded, you know, greatly. You know, to me, it just started with, I don't want to have to listen to a boss tell me what to do because I don't like that shit. You know what I mean? Like I just didn't want that. So to me, freedom was not having to report to someone, right? But since I have gotten into this community and broadened my horizon, you know, gotten outside of my little bubble over here in, you know, Florida in the US, freedom has a whole different meaning, you know, and I get this a lot in talking to members just in different countries, right? Like I have a member who's in Africa. He lives in Africa, and he's my most successful member, you know, and he has the least amount of resources. You know what I mean? And to him, freedom is just the opportunity that he's even allowed to do this. To just the fact that he can create his own business, and he's not confined by where he is, right? And I just think that's awesome. So I wanted to kind of get some feedback from you guys, like what is your idea of freedom? Because I'm super interested in this, and it's a word that is said a lot in our community, right? There's geographical freedom, there's financial freedom, there's time freedom, there's all these different types of freedom, and a lot of us use it in our advertising, we use it in our conversations, and I'm just really curious on other people's perspective about it. You know, I was having this conversation yesterday in the afternoon, and then last night I went to a recovery meeting, right? And it had a completely different meaning. You know, I had this thought in the back of my mind, and you know, freedom from active addiction is to me the greatest freedom I've ever had. You know what I'm saying? And that is something that means something different to different people. So I just wanted to get your perspective. So if you have an idea, if you want to raise your hand, that's cool. If not, I'll just call on you, because you know that's how we roll. But whatever, like what does freedom mean to you? Like what do you think about that? And what do you think about the concept of, not the concept, this is just my opinion, it's not a concept or anything, that people's idea of freedom is kind of determined by their experience, is kind of limited to by what their experience is at that time. If that even makes sense. Jubert.
Thank you, Danny. Hello, everyone. What a word, freedom. When you were talking about freedom, I got emotional. And it just took me the time that I didn't have freedom. And that was the time when Samir, my amazing son, my technician, Danny, you know him. Without him, I'm nothing. I received a call from the hospital that, you know, I have to be at the hospital because my son he's coming to the world and I have to be there. I begged my boss. I said, please. I said, I have to go. He said, look at all these customers. And without you, we can't do anything. I have to close. I said, it's your business and it's my son. It's my first child. Sorry, guys. I said, I have to be there. He yelled at me. I walked off. I said, even if I lose my job and I said, I will be at the hospital for my wife, for my son. And I did. Never forget that day. And now, every day I wake up, I don't have to go to that boss. I don't have to go and ask him if I can go do something. That is really important to me. That day with my boss, I will never forget till my last day in this planet. And that is to me freedom. I don't have to go and ask someone that I want to be with my family. And now I'm here every day. Anytime I shut down my laptop, the SFM, they don't tell me why you're not working on your business, because they say it's your business, you work on it. And I just go do whatever I want to do. That is freedom. Not to ask someone that I want to go, especially for our family. That is very important. Thank you, guys. Sorry, I got emotional.
Thank you, brother. You don't need to be sorry, man. That's real shit. I appreciate that. I love that. Good looking out, my friend. All right. Albert.
My experience with freedom while going to school, I had a passion for electrical installation. I visited a gentleman who worked nearby by the school. And because he realized, but
Albert,
my dad.
Albert, I'm afraid your internet is breaking up a lot. Try and turn off your video. Hopefully that will help stream, because we don't hear you very well, I'm afraid. Let's give this a try. Good. Try again.
Sorry. I hope you hear me clearly now.
Yes.
So I'll take it over from the top. As I was saying, freedom. I experienced what is freedom while going to school. I had a passion for electrical installation. I visit a gentleman that do some work by the school, and he got a sponsor to sponsor some students who was interested in that field. But my dad abused me verbally, mentally, and I will say also spiritually. So after getting that opportunity, he told me 6 o'clock to listen to him what it's all about. But because of my passion and determination, I told my mom, I cannot allow this to happen. So I left home. I went back to my grandmother to do that, in order to get the opportunity to do that course. And so because of that freedom, it allowed me to complete that course. And you know what? That teacher actually uses me as an example for his students later down the road. Even if I got the opportunity to do maintenance for the National Stadium of Grenada, I used to get time off just to go to his institute as an exemplar for his other student. Due to that freedom, it enabled me to open my own electrical business. It also gave me the inspiration to reach out to do other courses like master in sale, event planning, and so forth. You know, so I just say that to say how important, how far it could take us into this journey.
Absolutely, Albert. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate it. Curls, thank you for your on-point tech support. That was incredible. Hilton, what is up, brother?
Hi, Danny. Hi, all. Freedom. Yes. The two things what came to mind for me is I was speaking to a gentleman this morning, and he is Irish, and he was telling me about how Ireland was divided between I think it's Protestants and Catholics, and he was telling me about his experiences with that. And one of the things what came to mind when he was telling me, I was one of the contractors who went to Germany when the Berlin Wall came down. It actually started coming down November in 1989, and it was 3 years after that. I was one of the contractors who worked in Berlin in Germany, and I went to the Berlin Wall and saw parts of the wall still standing. Took pictures with it with my sister at the time, and it was such a wonderful thing to experience and meet a lot of the Germans, not only the Germans from the east but from the west as well. And you could actually tell when you meet somebody which part of the wall they were from, which was amazing, based on the way how they speak, their attitude, their morals, the way how they actually conduct themselves as well. So that was the two experiences for me, seeing those two items, the freedom of twice in a day of one nation being divided by a wall or beliefs in religion. So that's what I wanted to share, Danny.
I love it, brother. Thank you, Hilton. Casper.
This is amazing because the one word I just wrote down was walls. Freedom is all to do with walls. It's the weird thing is, as most of you know, is I always think in yin and yang. And let's say that you got like ultimate freedom, which is like freedom of expression and movement and all those things. You're alone in a void. The freedom exists by the walls that are there. And it's an amazing thing what you just said there, Jubert, and thank you for that share, emotional as it is, because the thing that you just said is like, I'm going to break through this wall even if I lose my job. And I think that there's an amazing balance between those two things, is that freedom, a lot of people go into like, no, they feel oppressed by whatever their surrounding is. But you just went like, yeah, okay, screw the surrounding. I'm going to break through this wall, whatever happens. And so I really like that, how this comes together now, because I think that that's the whole thing about freedom. And I did a 90-day video on this one once. I didn't have the time to look it back. But what I did once is an exercise in writing down all the different ways of freedom. So like I said, the two that come to mind now is freedom to move, freedom of expression, but it can be so many things. Write all your concepts down of what your freedom is, and then you can see the walls as well, what is blocking you from getting there. And then you can find a way to get around or over or under the wall. That's my concept of freedom. But the light exists with the dark, of course. So it's not like this thing where we say like freedom, and yeah, and then you are there all alone, free from your family, free from everything that you had. You're standing alone in a beautiful meadow with beautiful flowers, but you're standing alone. And that's what I always say is freedom versus responsibility. So you get like altruism, basically. It's like, so you have to take care of your family, or you still need to be connected with the things that are not freedom. And that's why it's not just something just beautiful on the horizon. It's a balance between the things that you are responsible for, the things that how you can help other people. And so you basically, so it's in one way going, I'm going to go through this wall, or I'm not going to go through this wall because I'm going to help them first to get a sandwich or whatsoever. And that's the balance, I think, in freedom, to create freedom for more people and all together. That will be my opinion there on freedom.
Right on, man. I love that. Yeah, you know, with great freedom comes great responsibility, right? And those things we're talking about, taking care of people and doing all those that we might not consider freedom. But if we look at that as we don't have to do that, we get to do that, right? Like we're blessed to have the ability to be able to
That's
do
it.
that,
If you have the
right?
freedom to help someone else, that's the biggest freedom.
Yep.
It's not an egoistic thing. And a lot of people think about it in an egoistic way, as in, I want to have the freedom to travel the world. Well, you can create that. But then what? Like you say, then the responsibility comes in. Teach other people how to create that freedom. And that's even if you have the freedom to help other people, oh, your life goes sky high. It's amazing. It's the best thing.
Absolutely. Coming from a place of service, man. I completely agree with that, you know, and I do believe the more people that we help, the freer we become, you know, and at least up in here, you know, for me, that's been my experience for sure. All right. Ethan, my man.
Hey, Danny.
It's good to see you, bro. It has been a while.
It has been a while. It's even receded further than from the last time.
I was gonna say your hair's looking slick, bro. I'm impressed.
That's what happens as time goes.
Right on. Yeah, mine gets grayer.
I'm loving the kind of the definition in terms of freedom, and the thing for me about freedom is that it's within each of our lives. Like in Jubert's life, there was a moment that defined freedom for him. And in Albert's life, there's a moment that he can reflect back on and say, no, that was my freedom. And that's what I believe freedom ultimately is, that there isn't one color, there isn't one phrase, because within each of our lives, we are faced with a moment where we look at our lives and say, I can go left or right. I can take the red pill or the blue pill. And in that moment, you experience yourself, your choice, your God-given ability to choose, and then the next step that you take. So in Jubert's case, he could have stayed there and experienced that as a trauma. Instead, he chose differently and experienced his freedom. With Albert, he could have stayed at home and not done the course and, you know, been oppressed further. In that moment, that's his defining moment. So I don't want to leave it out there because everybody's really personal, and I just want to share my own experience of freedom. And it came in when I decided to get out of my marriage. And the thing about it was my kids at the time were 4, 5, and 7. And the world around me, my society, my culture, my everything was telling me I should not do this. I cannot do this. I just need to bite the bullet and just carry on. And I knew that it would destroy me. And that was my moment or the beginning of my journey towards what I would say was my freedom, was stepping out and saying, no, for me in this moment, I'll die if I stay here, and my kids will die with me. They won't get a father. They won't see me as a man that they want to ever learn anything from. So that was my particular moment, and it worked out. But to sum it up for me, what it became is self-knowledge became my freedom. It was before that time where I was so confused about the breakdown of my marriage and am I doing the right thing or whose fault? It was just a mess of confusion as to why this is all wrong. And ultimately my freedom came in meeting a mentor and him saying to me, well, dude, you're still married. And that was the beginning of my journey. I'd been divorced for 2 years, and he said to me, you're still married. And I began there to unpack and understand myself in a way that if I'm sitting on a bus for 2 hours to work and back, I can relate to that place differently, not get taken out by it. And that ultimately is my freedom. And with that, I'll shut up and move on. Thank you, guys.
I love it, man. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, we're free to choose, but we're not free from the consequences of those choices, right? And so that's the balance, you know. This is what I choose. Am I willing to accept the consequence of that choice? But the freedom of that choice is where it lies, man. You know, in my opinion. I love that. I appreciate you sharing. Thank you. Letha, welcome to our call. Thank you for raising your hand.
Thank you. I'm just globalizing based on what Ethan and Albert said. To me, I feel as though, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just, to me, freedom is peace. Because like Ethan said, he had to find that peace within himself, even though society was against his decision and everything, but he found that peace to end his marriage. And Albert, the same thing, he had to find a peace by moving to his grandmother's house. And just having the peace of mind to pursue his goals. So for me, freedom is peace. It's having peace within, which is not always easy because, you know, like Ethan said, you have to deal with society. You have to deal with other people's opinion, family, friends. But it's you finding that peace within yourself. If, you know, like by you saying, okay, you know what, I want to pursue this goal, even though the odds are against me. But then once you have that peace within yourself, I feel as though that, you know, that it's up to you. Like, that's my opinion.
I love it. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. You know, I think for me, it has grown. To me, my idea of freedom has expanded just based on kind of the circumstances. Like, what I mean by that is, you know, years ago when I was, you know, when I was in my active addiction, right? I would tell myself that I'm free because in theory, I could go anywhere and do anything, but I was in prison, you know, I was a slave to my disease. And like every morning when I woke up, the absolute first thought would be, how am I gonna not be dope sick is what we call it. But you know, how am I gonna feel normal, right? Whatever my normal was at that time. And so my entire day, until I was able to feel that normal, you know, I was consumed by that. So I had absolutely no freedom. You know, my life was completely controlled by that. And after, you know, a lot of that, when I finally made the decision that I was going to, you know, change my life, you know, that doesn't go away for a while. You know what I mean? Whether you stop doing drugs or whatever it is, that doesn't mean you stop thinking about it and obsessing about it. And, you know, you have to learn how to completely live your life all over again, right? Because you're kind of animalistic at that point. And I remember the first time that I went to bed after I'd been clean for, I don't know, probably almost 3 months, I guess. And I didn't think about using all day. Like it just came to me, like I just went an entire day and I did not think about using. Like to me, that was fucking freedom. You know, like that was, that's when my life started to change, right? Because once I had experienced that freedom, I was able to look outside of that. Because before, to me, that was it. Like freedom was just being able to not obsess over something. You know, first it was a physical, you know, addiction, mental addiction, spiritual, you know, emotional, all that. And once that was kind of lifted, I guess would be the word, temporarily, you know, it's a daily thing, but my ability to look outside of that for freedom in other areas of my life grew, you know. Like I had a job where like I made my own schedule. I used to travel, You know, I did sales, and I had that job for like 13 years before I ever got clean. But I never really experienced the actual freedom of that type of job, because everything was like I did a bunch of insanity to just be able to function. You know what I mean? And then when I went back and did that for a little while, year and a half a couple of years after I got clean, I actually experienced the freedom of that. You know, like it was cool to be able to do that. Most people didn't have the freedom in their job, right? And then of course they became corporate, and that started to take away my freedom, and that's what pushed me away from that, you know, because I had this freedom and now it was being taken away. I felt, you know, which was their right to do that. It's their company, you know what I mean? So I felt that was being taken away. I don't think that had I experienced the freedom in the other areas of my life, that I would have even noticed. I would have just been negative about it, or not liked being told what to do, because, you know, I don't really like being told what to do. But I wouldn't have looked at it as, you know, like I have freedom. Like I don't have to be here. You know what I mean? Like I can go do other things. And, you know, that was, you know, a few months before I found the SFM. That was 2018. So since then, freedom in my life has expanded. Like right now, I'm down here at my house on the lake having this call. I'm about to take my dad to go on this trip, right, that I've always wanted to take him on. And then I can go to Jacksonville and work. Like we can do this from anywhere we want to do. And to me, that level of freedom, I mean, I can't like fly a private jet or anything. Like I don't have that kind of freedom, right? But I can go do whatever I want to do pretty much whenever I want to go do it. And to me, like that's freedom. Being able to spend the time with people that I care about and hang out with you awesome people from wherever I can plug this laptop into. Like to me, that is my idea of freedom. And like 5 years ago, that would have been that would not even have entered my mind that was possible. You know what I mean? Although that freedom has always been there, I had no concept of it, you know? And so for me, that's why I believe that our idea of freedom expands with our experience, you know, like whenever we get a taste of something, now we know that that's possible and then it can grow. So I don't know if that makes sense, but that's kind of what I've been thinking about. And that's why I wanted to go over this topic. All right.
Danny,
Who else?
can I?
Yeah, brother.
I believe sometimes, most of the time, we take the freedom of ourselves, and sometimes there's a force on us. In my situation, in my job, I took the freedom of myself. I didn't ask my boss to employ me here, and I went and asked for the job. But when I was back in Afghanistan, I was under the bombs and missiles. I had to get out of that freedom because there was a force on me. I couldn't get out of my house because I could have get killed by the bomb or by the missile, or someone would have shoot me. So that was something forced on me. But other type of freedoms that we take it off ourselves. We go to the job that we're not happy. We can't do the things that we want, which I was in that case. That type of freedom back in Afghanistan, I was out of my control. But here in Australia, I created on myself, which I still, you know, it was a tough time at the time that I couldn't get out, but I don't blame my boss. I hugged him and I said, I'm grateful that you gave me the opportunity. I was the one that I put myself in here. But back in there, a lot of us, you know, the situation comes on us that it's out of our control. We can't get out of it. Oh, we can, but it's hard. It was my situation. So I just want to share that sometimes we create this jail for ourselves.
Absolutely. Charlie.
Hey guys, good to see everybody. Love to be here. I think one thing that's taking away people's freedom right now, of course, is the pandemic we're all in, right? It's physically taking away some of our freedoms, right? We can't go out the door unless we're going to the grocery store or something. But I also think emotionally, it's entrapped a lot of people in anxiety and stress and depression. You know, our kids are suffering from that. And I've suffered from that myself in the past, right? Through some severe depression. And that's another one. It's kind of less physical. It's probably similar to maybe an addiction where you're just oppressed, right? You feel oppressed inside and out. And it's through communities like this, it's through working on yourself, it's through prayer, it's through meditation, it's through, maybe medical things, different things, but to break free from something like that and to help other people break free because, people don't realize how many people suffer from anxiety and depression, right? Especially now, they're talking about well over 50% of the people you meet are having some degree of that. And a lot of it, of course, is exacerbated by this, the pandemic we're all in. But I think that's something that can be very oppressive, and freedom from that. And again, maybe it's like an addiction where you never get completely free, but you're on that road continuously working on it, working on how to deal with that. And for everyone, it's different, right? Because there's all kinds of different reasons why that happens. But in any case, that was one for me that, is something that I'm passionate about, helping people through that time of their life, because it takes over your world when you feel like that. When you're anxious, you can't make good decisions, and then you make worse decisions, and then you get more anxious, and then you have more depression, and it's a cycle. Like it's a bad cycle. So anyway, that's just for me one that that I wanted to mention, especially now, because people that you meet, there's a good chance they're anxious because of just the virus and the situation we're all in. So that's my input. And then I think also, just on the business side, since we talk business sometimes, is that when we use the word freedom, we throw it around very flippantly, like the word love, right? It's important when you're in your marketing to think about how you use the word freedom, because it means something different to everyone, as we've been talking about on this call.
Absolutely, brother. I appreciate that. Yeah, with what we have going on right now, suicides are an all-time high, addiction, use all this stuff, right? And because a lot of people don't know how to cope. This is just unfamiliar territory, I guess it would be. And I see a lot of that because I do my recovery thing, right? So I also think, and this is just my opinion, I think over here we have a lot of entitlement. I think that people, like I was born here, so I can, I have all this that I'm owed, right? And I think that that's a mental thing. Like, you're not owed shit, you're fucking blessed to be here. Do something with it, and that's for everywhere, and I think that we kind of create that freedom. And I think that right now people are taking away their own freedom because of what their experiences are, right? Like, people are used to being able to do all this stuff, and it does suck, to not be able to go do stuff. I totally get that. But somebody sent me this meme the other day, and he said, somebody's in prison right now, scared to drop the soap before this guard tells him to go to bed and what time to eat. He's like, no, dude, you're not in prison. You're at your house. Chill out. You know what I mean? And it is tough for a lot of people, but I think we also have to keep it in perspective. You know what I mean? It's people still can sit there and watch Netflix. You know what I mean? Like, you're not worried about getting a visit at night from Bubba in the cell next door. You know what I mean? So, and now, did you have your hands up?
When I was trying to think of freedom, I think there's just so many facets of it that I couldn't narrow it down, right? And started off, well, my freedom, while I was living in this country, I was very blessed that I was able to perform for a living, and that's how I made my income. And that, is my passion, and that is how I always wanted to live, was to be able to perform for my living. And that was one idea of freedom. But as I went through all these layers, I think the biggest freedom that I've ever experienced is when, I don't even know when it happened, but when I learned for myself that everything is going to be okay. Because I haven't had the easiest times in life, and things would just be, for lack of a better term, a shit show. Sorry, curls. And I just, I had a lot of difficulties, but I always watched everything get better. I always had a roof, even if it wasn't the best roof. Sometimes it leaked. I always had food, even if it was that last little bit of cereal in my cupboard, but I had that food. And I think that taking away that fear of the what if and knowing that everything is going to work out, it just will, because everything in life has worked out all the time in some way, shape, or form. I think that is the freedom for me. That is the biggest part, is the freedom from fear and just knowing I can trust.
I love it. I love that. I also believe when we're doing the right things for the right reason, shit just has a way of working out in life, man. You know, I love it. Thanks for sharing. All right. But Ben, my man, welcome.
Anyone else wants to share? Oh, Ben,
Ben's
can you
share.
try?
He's trying to unmute.
Yeah, I'm trying to help him on my end.
I'm not.
Sorry guys, my space
There
bar.
you are.
My space bar wasn't working. Yeah, thanks for asking. And so I think that freedom is about having the confidence to overcome the limitations that you have in your own mind that's been built up over your whole life, basically. And I think the biggest way to develop freedom in your own mind is to realize that you have purpose. You know, I look at someone like Danny, for example. You know, you've been in addiction, and I'm sure a big part of your journey is that to realize that you've got purpose. You're sitting here hosting this webinar now, which is brilliant. You know, it just gives you that understanding that you have purpose. And I think, you know, the classic one that I think of is Viktor Frankl in Man's Search for Meaning, which I think a lot of us have read. It sort of resonates a little bit with Jubert and his background. You know, that you can have everything taken away from you, but, you know, it's how you respond to it. And he said that the people that died were the ones that gave up because they realized they didn't have purpose. And that's how he kept going. And his psychological understanding of it, the people that survived were the ones that they realized they had a purpose to get through it and see it through. So freedom for me is, yeah, about developing confidence to overcome those limitations and realize you have purpose.
I love it. I appreciate that. Yeah, you know, a purpose of serving others too is get outside of yourself. You know, I think that that's huge. I find a lot of freedom in helping other people because then I'm not thinking about myself. You know, I think that's extremely helpful. All right. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to share with us?
I do.
Awesome.
Taking the mic. Yeah, I love what Ben just shared. In my experience of freedom is that inner power that came through transformation and healing. It was freeing myself from my past self. For a long time, I lived hostage of my own past as a victim. And therefore, I would never really go and achieve any goals because I didn't think I was worth it or that I had what it takes. So, yeah. And it was that whole mindset work and that healing journey from an abusive past and overcoming this that for me was the experience of freedom. It was very internal. And then using this experience, that healing, that transformation to go on and help people who are still experiencing what I went through and are still prisoner of that past. So freedom for me is very internal, and I want to serve others, but I really focused on myself first before going and helping them. And you keep on healing. There's always a little something there. You heal from the whole story, but you create so many coping mechanisms in childhood to survive various experiences, whether it's being beaten up with a belt or an electric cable or being sexually abused by someone. You create so many coping mechanisms and they travel throughout your life with you. And then you reach adult stage And all these little coping mechanisms are still with you, and they're hindering your progress, your life, your career, your relationship, problems in intimacy, and all of these things. So when I managed to free myself from all of that, that was the most beautiful, spiritual, powerful experience I've ever had. And I was like, I have to go and share this with other women, because I know there's a lot out there that are still living as hostages. So that's freedom for me.
I love it. Thank you, girls. I appreciate that. You know,
can I add something to that, Danny?
Of course.
Goes. Because one of the things that what's really clear now is that freedom, there's two ways there. One is the internal way of getting freedom, your internal walls, as I said earlier, or the external ones, right? And I think that this, especially now with the whole pandemic and how different countries are having different ways to deal with it, it's really important to see or have a thought about whether this is an internal thing or an external thing. So the oppression or the thing that you have on your mind, because one of the things that I see being Dutch but living in Indonesia, the way the Dutch work with the whole COVID thing is so completely different than what they do here. The Dutch, they say, you can't go there, you cannot go there. So this, what I can't remember who said it, but you get like this roof and these walls around you by social environment. We don't have that here. And I think it's really important, if you want to get freedom, to understand whether the blockage of getting to the freedom, so the wall between you and getting to that freedom, whether that is internal or external, because both are internal. One is, they're both just in your mind. But the way you can deal with getting to that freedom is if the freedom blockage is external, you can ask yourself, do I give it bleep? Is that the external pressure that I want to get or not? And this is why I moved country. This is why, this is what Jubert said before as well, is I just went out because I just said, I don't want to live in this social environment because they are blocking me. And so it's one thing that I see a lot of people doing at the moment is going, yeah, politics say, or they say they do this, or they say I cannot go out. They say I cannot do this. And they are blocking my freedom. But you are responsible for your own freedom. And this is what Kostya said, can I get out of this? Because that's what freedom is. And so be aware of whether the way to freedom and the blockage to freedom is internal or external. Because both ways it's internal, it's just your mindset. And whether it's like what you said, Coles, it's like past memories or coping mechanisms, it's all within you, and you can get out of it and over it.
Love it. Thank you, Casper. Tony, did you have your hand up, brother? But you're not unmuted, my friend. In the bottom corner.
Well, he knows. He probably has a little gremlins going on because he masters this.
I don't know.
Well.
Tony's wearing that scarf and it's making me
There we
cold
go.
just looking.
I'll hold my space bar down, but I couldn't click the little red microphone. Hi everybody, nice to see everybody again. Some new faces I haven't seen. I think freedom is a personal thing, and everybody has their own view of freedom. To me, it's being able to make a decision and know that that decision for you going forwards will not impact on anybody else's freedom or demands. But when I look at the screen here and I look at people, and I'm Jubert, you know where I'm coming from, but I won't say anything else except that my life started in the Middle East in the 50s. And people's freedom there, to me, completely non-existent. There was a caste system. If you weren't of the right caste, you couldn't even look at somebody in a caste above you. There was poverty like we see in very, very few countries now. But we're blessed in our environment. And I think that we ought to pay some homage to that. I'm in a fortunate position where the freedom I am chasing is to travel the world. And there's an expression about little acts of kindness, unlooked for, yeah. When was the last time anybody was stood in a queue waiting to get their morning, afternoon, halfway through the morning coffee, and the person in front of you is struggling to find their purse or their wallet, and you say, "It's all right, I've got that." The feeling you get, the buzz you get from that is wonderful. And it's about humanity and sharing. I would love to travel the world in a sailing boat so that I am not, well, I can be as carbon neutral as I can be. And a lot of the places I want to go to are not as technologically or world able as where I'm living now in the UK. And just to do stuff for nothing. Do you know what I mean? Somebody needs a hand, somebody needs something, then make it happen for them. Now, don't become a sort of, well, there he is, let's chase him down the street because I want, you know, but just quietly and unassuming. And that would, for the last years of my life, would be wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. I have grandchildren as well, and I have children. One of my children became 39 this year. I don't remember telling her she could get that old, and I don't know how it happened, but it's happened. We have in my family a severely handicapped, it's my first grandchild, and he has something called Jubert Syndrome. I won't go into describing it here. You can look it up at Great Ormond Street Hospital on their website. You type in Jubert and you can read all about it, but it is a severe handicap. And he's it's not debilitating in terms of the length of life. He will have a full and long life, please God. But he's going to need to be looked after. And when his parents are gone, and well, I'll go first because that's the law. I keep telling my children, you know, you don't go before me. Because I saw that with my mother when my brother died. So if I can build something that the other grandchildren can pick up, and we'll give them the freedom to look after, and there's a freedom to look after their sibling, marvelous, absolutely terrific. That is like freedom. So there's a whole load. I'm going to go away now.
Tony, hey man,
Yeah.
Where I'm going.
That was awesome, and I appreciate it, my man. And that's really all we have time for today, because we try to give Curls a few minutes. But man, I gotta tell you, you know, the longer I'm in this community, and just the life that I live, man, the less patience I have for superficial conversation, right? Like, I love it. I appreciate that, everybody.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with superficial conversation. Nothing wrong at all.
Yeah.
Danny?
Yes.
Danny, don't worry anymore. I don't have this meeting any longer, so we can carry on if you guys want to.
Oh, 2 more hours. 2 more
Curls
hours.
has
guys.
more freedom.
Bye.
Another 30 minutes. 30 minutes.
I'll make you co-host if you want to stay here for an extra 2 hours. But yeah, there's no, we can, yeah, it's all good. We're free, darling,
Thank
from
you,
time
Albert. I appreciate
constraints.
that.
Visionary
appreciate
call at
that.
7 a.m.
Yeah, Albert, you had your hand up, my friend.
Everybody's struggling today. Is some no?
I think he's turning off the camera so that his mic will work. Remember before he had a.
Then he used to be. You start to become a tech genius now, right?
He
Well, I
is.
got to tell you what, I'm
Zooming
basically a wizard.
in on PowerPoints, and now you know all about this.
I don't mean to brag or anything, Casper, but I'm kind of a big deal. You know
Can I
what I mean?
hire you to program my next website?
Yeah, no. But John Brooks will hook you up.
Amazing. Well,
all right.
Anyone want to share? Or Sandra?
Yeah, sorry. I was just struggling a bit there to get things right. As we discuss in freedom, 2 key words come to mind, and I thought I should just implement it in the discussion. One is action, because in order to get freedom, we must act towards it. You know, get the fear out of our system and get action involved. And as our brother mentioned, external and internal, I believe according to the freedom we receive, we also have to replace whatever we've been through with forgiveness. Because if we don't forgive, we will keep playing these things over and over in our minds. You see, so forgiveness will play a key role in going forward to receive that freedom we're speaking of. Thank you.
Absolutely. We don't forgive for others, we forgive for ourselves, so we don't carry that burden, my brother. I agree. Sandra.
Hi, everyone. Hi. Freedom for me is like someone like me. I'm married to a Dutch guy. I live in Netherlands, and I was born and raised in Nigeria. So I was trapped in 2 cultures. I hear from my family. In Nigeria, you have to do it like this. In Netherlands, I hear in Netherlands, you have to do it like this. It was really hard for me. So I had the freedom to say once I become suicidal, it became too much for me. It was very heavy. And I had the power once to say, you know what? I had it. Enough is enough. I have to live my life. I have my life. This is how I want to live. That is for me a big freedom to walk away from my family and say, you know what? It's enough. And the Dutch culture, I love it, but I have one life. So if the Dutch people do it this way, I don't have to do it the way they are doing things. I have to do it my way. And it was a very big decision, and I'm glad. And that is freedom for me.
Thank you, Sandra. I appreciate you sharing. I love this call today. You guys are the best. I always learn when everybody shares, and I really appreciate it. I had something I wanted to read real quick, and then I'll wrap it up. And Harold, I did not get a chance to welcome you. I think this is your first time on our call. Welcome, my man. And I don't know if you know who Terrence Howard is, but you look exactly like Terrence Howard. Like my man. Like I keep looking down there and I'm thinking Terrence Howard's on our call. You know? But I'd rather have you, Harold. I'd rather have you here, my friend. Glad that you're here with us. All right. So I had this cool little thing I want to read real quick before I do our action item and our book of the week. So this is my brother-in-law sent me this the other day. He said, Danny, this is so you. So I figured I'd share it with you all. It says one, there's little 6 things here, little quick little sentences, and it's examples, right? So once all villagers decided to pray for rain. On the day of prayer, all the people gathered, but only one boy came with an umbrella. That is faith. When you throw babies in the air, they laugh because they know you'll catch them. That's trust. Every night we go to bed without any assurance of being alive the next morning, but we still set our alarms to wake up. That's hope. Plan big things for tomorrow in spite of zero knowledge of the future, and that's confidence. We see the world suffering, but still we get married and have children. That's love. An 80-year-old man wore a shirt with a sentence written on it that says, "I'm not 80 years old. I am sweet 16 with 64 years of experience." That is attitude. I love that. I want to share it with you guys here. I thought that was cool.
Dude, can you just post that into the SFM, like, because that's brilliant. That's absolutely
Yeah.
brilliant, mate. That's great stuff. Love it. Love it. Post that because we can read it back, because you went really quick, but I couldn't write down. Post that, but that's
No worries, brother. I will
it.
do that. I'll find the recording of this in Facebook and I'll post it. I can do that. I actually do have a call with a member here in a little bit to help her with technology. So, you know, not but I can make that work. All right. So the action item for this week, this 2 weeks, this fortnightly thing that we do here. If you've never been on a call, we have an action item, you know, because like my man Albert said, it's all about action. You know what I mean? There's a lot of cool stuff that we hear, but don't turn what we learn into knowledge, turn it into action. So my action item for this week, of course, I always, you know, encourage people to tell someone that they appreciate them. But my action item for this week is to write down people who are in your life. Just get a piece of paper and just write down some of the people who are close to you, some of the people who are in your life. Okay. And then write down what attributes they have that you appreciate, what qualities they have that you appreciate. Is someone kind? Is someone generous? Is someone loving? Is someone a good example of, I don't know, how they are a partner or a parent or whatever it is, right? Write down the attributes that you appreciate about them. And then tell them, right? You can put it in a card, you can put it in a letter, you can put it in a message, or you could tell them, right? Do you think people would rather receive that or a gift, like buying them something, right? Like whenever we share with people the things that we appreciate about them, like to me, that's the best gift. So that's my action item for this week, for this time. I did an action item. Remember, guys, I did a couple calls ago where it was send a note, send a letter to someone, like write a note and tell them you appreciate it. And my mom sent me one. She watches some of these replays and she actually did it. She does my little action items. Like she's locked up in assisted living and can't go anywhere, so it gives her some shit to do. You know what I mean? So she's all about, "Oh, Danny, I did your action item from your call. It was amazing." Thanks, Mom. Good looking out. All right, and my book of the weeks was sent to me all the way from the UK by my man Hilton. It is called The Illusion of Money by Kyle Cease. And this is not a book about money, right? It is about the illusion of money and about how finding purpose and all that is how we truly get wealthy. And then the money just kind of comes whenever we're doing enough to help other people. So this is it. The Illusion of Money by Kyle Cease. And this dude is super funny. I mean, he's like a stand-up comedian, or he was. I'm not saying he's as funny as I am, but the dude is pretty funny, and you guys will really enjoy the book. So that is the book of the week. You should check it out. Thank you so much for coming and sharing and being vulnerable and open with us, and for everybody's feedback, man. I love this space, and I'm super, super grateful for all of you. Thank you so much. And Curls, the queen,
Danny,
thank you so much, darling. Appreciate you. Yes, sir, Jubert.
What Ben said before, the book Man's Search for Meaning. This is the advice from the greatest man in our community, J.J. John Jackson. He advised in one of his calls, he said, read this book at least once a year. And I've been reading different books through this year. And just the start of December, I remember I said, oh my God, I haven't done this. And I just started reading this book. It is such a wonderful book. It just, give you a goosebump. At least once a year, you got to read this Man's Search for Meaning. Thank you.
Love it. Yep. Yeah, I read that one on JJ's recommendation too, brother. Grateful. Thank you.
Yeah, fantastic book. Yeah. I think most of the community has read this because JJ was like, dive into this. And I remember one day him saying this, and then I messaged him. I was like, I read it. And he's like, okay, great. But did you own it? What about this book did you learn and you're going to put into practice into your life? And I went like, I'm going to go and read it again. because sometimes you just read the book mindlessly. And then I was like, oh, I just got a slap from the big bear here. I better go and do my homework properly. So yeah, I dive back into it regularly because it's, yeah, every line is powerful in that book.
This is the fourth time I'm reading this. Once a year, just make a commitment to read it. You never get tired of it. You just learn and apply it in your life. That's it.
True.
Amen, brother. I appreciate it. Julia, thanks for joining us. I want to talk to you because you're driving, and I'm all about safety these days. Denise, thanks for joining us. No, we didn't get to see you, but we appreciate it. And thank you guys so much. Curls, you the best. Thank you.
You're the best. You're the best. And you only use the S word 3 times today. There's progress.
I'm slipping. That's because everybody
bored with all your swearing. Yeah.
That's because everybody else talked more. I'm gonna go right now and get a bunch out to make up for my daily quota. Well, I got it. I'm on it.
I've got a banner now for Danny. When he strikes over 4 S words, bam! I put the banner out as a reminder to him.
Wow.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, for your shares, for your vulnerability, Shabir, and for your wisdom. That wisdom combined is exactly why we're here and how we can change the world bit by bit.
Love it. Thank you guys. Have an awesome day, y'all.
Keep being awesome.